Hello, and welcome back. Or if you're new, hello again. I'm not really sure what I'm going to say in this voice over, but I thought I would do a little sketchbook tour again because I'm halfway through my latest sketchbook. I realise I've not shown you the one between that and my 30-day sketchbook. So, sketchbook number 5. However, upon getting this out, I realised my first sketchbook tour would be sketchbook 1. And my 30-day sketchbook tour would be sketchbook 4, meaning I missed out 2 and 3. So, let's look at the missing sketchbooks as well. Now, these are from a while back, but we're going to go through them anyway, so I can't promise you anything great. And as always, anyone who watched my first sketchbook video, these are my watercolor sketchbooks, so they're more thingist experiments and thingist work rather than my initial sketches and doodles, because I have a lot of sketchbooks going at the same time. If you want to know more about that, watch my first sketchbook video and I'll talk you through in general the sketchbooks I have going at the same time. If you'd like a look through some of my more messier sketchbooks, let me know. So, we're going to start with sketchbook number 2, which is this red one. And you probably noticed I've went from the landscape ones of the SS. So we'll talk to the portrait ones. And that's generally because I do more figurative work. I tend to work in portrait. But I do kind of wish Essa did a portrait one that was the same size as the landscape one, because they were a pinch smaller. But as you may guess, since I'm on number 6 of these sketchbooks, I do like them. So number 2, this was done between August 2020 and February 2021. So not too long ago. We're going through these quite quickly, all things considered. And the first thing I decided to try was a house. It's not the world's greatest house, but I don't draw houses or figures all that much, so I'm quite proud of this even looking back at it. And I might have to make an effort to draw more houses. If I'm going to be inking them with like this, like I think I just did this some microns, I would probably do a different paper, something that's a bit like texture to get a hot press paper out. But I enjoyed that. What's next? I don't remember half these stuff, so I drew some mushrooms with some very cheap acrylic fine liner things. I don't have much else to say about that. These are cute. A very rough sketch of a very orange woman. I didn't like this when I tried it, and I still don't like it now. These are a lot harder to flip through because they're a bit bigger, so we'll be going back and forth. A giant arm. Just sweep through that. I might not have as much to say about the older ones. Oh, actually, I tell a lie, I do like this one. This is one of the first things I made into a sticker because I actually really liked it. It's really just a wee work off just a good reference. I like the way the hands were. And it kind of reminds me of a game character. What I was doing back then was actually doing my outlines in acrylic paint and then watercolouring over, and I still quite like that technique, but I would like to do thinner outlines of my acrylic. Some little ink practice sketches. You'll see a lot of these swatting watercolour. I think this is when I first got my teriyaki Gambi paints. I will have buttered how they're pronounced. I was just swatching them to see if I like them. Still really nice paints. This one here, again, was that acrylic and then watercolour wasp, which is actually quite fun for sketching and testing things out. I actually turned this into a bigger painting, which, if I can figure out my editing, I will pop here somewhere. I like this concept, I like this sketch. The final one turned out looking like a friend of mine, so that always amuses me and sort of gives it a nice special place in my heart because of that. Maybe I'll rework it at some point. Though, if anyone ever played Monkey Island, that's Moe. More acrylic and then watercolour, a little alien. When I was originally drawing this, it was supposed to be some creepy spider lady, quote the string there. I like the concept, I don't like the outcome. Those ears are really weird. But yeah. More sketches of faces. I realised looking back at my older sketchbooks at this point, I was doing a lot more ink outlines, which I should do more because I do enjoy them. But I've got better at painting without direct outlines. These were done using, is it Peerless Watercolor? Or these are Fever Watercolor sheets, which I really like because they're super easy to carry about, but they do have a slightly different effect than normal watercolour, I find. I think it might be because they're so intense, they come out really dark. These were some testings of my Sea of Grass paints when I got them. And some very terrible flowers because I can barely draw flowers these days, and I was even worse then. More. Ooh, I just knocked my camera there, didn't I? More acrylic and watercolour sketches, this little cyberpunk elf thing. I can't remember if I was playing cyberpunk at this time or it was just a feeling to paint that sort of concept. It's 2022, end of that. Sorry, end of 2020, so possibly was playing it. Terrible Ghost portrait experiment that then I just went over with a acrylic marker. Another painting with the Sea of Crafts quick sketch. Looking back at these, I'm sort of a bit, ooh, but I don't actually think I've improved all that much. I really should actually dedicate some time for actually painting for improvement rather than just painting for painting's sake. But effort. I also should stop painting things upside down in my sketchbooks because it makes these a lot more difficult because I'm spinning things around all the time. This was a quick test painting because this is where I first got my Paul Rubens paints. I like my Paul Rubens paints. I know a lot of people don't like them because they do have a lot of white mixes in them. But I've always enjoyed them. I think a lot of that is just how big the palettes are. I think I'm talking more about paints than I am actually paintings in this sketchbook, but as you can guess, I did a lot of shopping at this point. Again, this was another test on the back of that. I actually like the portfolio of this, and I won't pull it out now, but I've been doing a lot of portfolio portraits at the moment. So I don't know whether I'll reuse this reference. Not that I know what the reference was back then. More upside down pictures. Let's just flip the entire thing over. These were tests for the 2020 painting that I ended up doing. Just testing how I wanted to colorise it and things like that. Little marker drawing and a little test painting, which I still actually kind of like for a little rough one. Let's turn this back round. spooky Halloween pumpkin. You can tell this was probably October when I was doing these. And some vampire drawings. We've just done a Halloween RTP vampire game, and I was painting after that. Woof ink drawing. Very quick, very woof. Kind of reminds me of like a bad horror manga. And I think sketches. Again, I quite like this posing with the piece of paper in front of them. I might do something with that. Like a more finalised painting, so you might see this pose come up again. Though, saying this is what my hair looks like constantly at the moment because I can't bother with it, it's just living in a bun. More swassing. Beam paints, more Sea of Grass. It's about as much as I can tell you about them because, as I said, this was a fair whack ago I did these. This is when I actually first probably started doing these colour charts, and I pretty much do them all the time now when I'm testing paints that are new. Don't know whether that'd be interesting for you guys to see sort of how I test my paints out when I first get them to get a feel for them. This was more experiments for that 2020 paint one where it's just ink and watercolour. More very interesting and riveting to see paint swatches. Ink faces. It wasn't intentional at the time, but this kind of thing makes me think like 3 generations of people. Though probably not age appropriate because they all look relatively around the same age. More swatches and testing things out. I was going to say I can't tell you what these paints are, but I'm pretty sure these are my Stuart Semple ones, which I had for quite some time now. I was probably just re-swatching them. Bit more of a graphics one. This was actually originally concept art for basically the character design for the character that ended up being used in a painting that I did a film of here with the Sarkty. I'll pop it up, I'll do some editing, but figuring out what they look like. Again, oh, and these were the thumbnails for that painting actually. Here. And more paint swatches. Very interesting, I know. Oh, I got some Dan Smith dot cards. So just testing them here, very small because they are tiny. More prep work for that 2020 painting. That painting is probably the painting I did the most prep work I can ever think of. I'm usually a thumbnail and go for it sort of person, but I don't really paint plants, and I wanted to paint lilies, so I had to practice some of them. And I wanted to use new techniques, such as using ink and water, so I needed to do a lot of practice. And I think actually, as the painting went, it worked well for it. And benefited it. I think it stands out as still quite a good painting, even though it's one of my, it's about a year old. Yeah, about a year old now. Okay, this one needs explanations. So this is when I first bought some Dirty Blue paints, who is one of my favourite paint makers, and I was testing out the paints here. And I was actually painting this while I was on tap with a bunch of friends of mine, and I had the camera pointing at it so they could see what I was painting. And one of my friends has decided that this person is some sort of psychopath by the look of the face. That's where the pinky came from. This wasn't my fault, it was theirs. I hold nothing responsible for this. But again, not the best painting, and a bit weird, but quite enjoyable because it reminds me of a good time I had with my friends when we were still sort of stuck in the house. More lilies. I never want to paint lilies again. some thumbnail practice and sort of a concept for a painting I want to do. I actually still want to do this, and I really should do it. I need to stop doing new stuff and actually work on the things I want to. But I think I want to go for more this sort of thumbnail rather than the profile. That might change. This is a flower lady who I really quite like the concept, and I painted this after I promised I was never painting flowers again, but you know how it is. I sort of want to redo this though, but put sort of more of the wood cades here, so it's more like the flowers are coming out the wood cades. Some very rough tests of painting flowers. Rough painting without the sketch. I like the purple colour, but beyond that, not so much. A lot more graphical than some of my normal work that I do, but I do quite like this. I've got much better at sort of skin tone and stuff since I've been in this sketchbook, so maybe I'll redo this with a bit more skill. I say a bit more skill, a tiny little bit more skill. This is a hideous monstrosity, painted in Gauss, can never say that right. I like the purple and yellow because they make each other pop. Beyond that, yeah. Moving on. This was some squaller bots that I got, and these are Graphite Watercolors, the best way I can describe them. They're quite fun to work with. The theme had like landscapes and stuff, and I didn't do a very good job of that. I did a couple of loose ones on paper, which came out better, but I don't know what I've done with them. Little acrylic test piece, hand and octopus bits. I think I've been playing Call of Cthulhu and was sort of in that mood. More swatches. My very happy colour wheels. These were a couple of mixing ones that I got. These were Rembrandt and Jackson's actually when I first tested them. What else have I got here? Oh, another upside down piece of pages. Some more face references. I was actually drawing faces from there's a website that basically uses AI to generate faces, and I will use that for references that are Pinterest, because it's kind of weird to see what they come up with, and you're basically painting people who do not exist, which is amusing. I did the first one in watercolour, but then I decided I wanted to do it in ink, and I actually really still like this ink effect where it's an ink drawing that sort of blends into the background and a little bit of paint just for giggles. This guy was dubbed an evil Gordon Freeman. Not intentional, but I can see it. But yeah, really enjoyed these. I might do some more of them at some point. Slip us back to where we should to be. That, I'll just state, that is a theme between all my sketchbooks, is I will just paint things at random angles because I won't realise that I'm not being consistently the right way. Oh, my little bee woman. I still really like this. The hands are a little big, but I enjoy it. Originally I had this, let's just flip this round. Originally I had the creepy eyes go up into her eyes, but I asked round and I think it's better without it, so I painted over it. And as you may have guessed, some concept pictures and sketches of it. And yes, they reminded me of like little larvae theories of the devils from Sunless Sea. I highly recommend that game for anyone. Wasn't an intentional thing, but just reminded me as I worked on it. What else have I got here? Another sketch, again just trying to paint with, pretty much just paint with paint directly. Doesn't really work for me, certainly in that scout. I got some missing and gold paints here, which I really like. Super vibrant, and a little sketch that I did with them. I think I was just using 2 paint colours in this one. I think it was the purple and the green I've got here, which I actually might use as a limited palette in something else, but do a bit of a better job on it. Nearly done with this one. This was another acrylic and paint one, but I'm not the bigger fan of this, let's be fair. I don't like the posing, I don't like the way the colours came out. Yeah, just really don't like this. A couple of experiments with just doing eyes in splodges. That one looks too cartoony. That one looks incredibly creepy. But I kind of like it. But not something I've really experimented much more with. And lastly, another concept place that I do want to play with and do more with, because I do like the sort of creepy white empty eyes, but the whole thing needs a bit more work. We got anything in here? Oh, we might. Oh, a couple of quick sketches I did on a much smaller sketchbook, which I actually took out. Probably it would have been around October last year, because I was planning on using that sketchbook for Inktober and only did about the first half of it. So yeah, that was Sketchbook 2. Let's look at Sketchbook 3 now. Sketchbook number 3. I'll see if I can find out who this artist is and I'll ping it up for you, but I can't remember off the top of my head. But this is my one sketchbook that's got a sticker on it. I quite like it. Again, so this one was done between, this was the beginning of this year, beginning of February to the end of January, February, March, April. Point's not working. So yeah, let's jump in. This was an old alien sketch. It's not very good, let's be fair. But I still kind of like the concept of multiple limbs and floating around in space. But not really something I think I should explore with watercolors. This was a little test using, I get a dot card from Penhold Art every month, and these were a little test of them. He actually gave us a dot card of the Queen Gold, which I have a full palette, not a full palette of, I wish, a full pan of. Really loved that colour. I ended up buying that one as well, later on. But I ended up noting down some of my D&D characters and friends' D&D characters to draw. I've actually ended up doing most of these but digital, where I've done watercolour. Again, some face practice. She looked like she was looking at something, so I just put a spider there because I felt like it. Okay. Some thumbnailing for painting that I never actually completed. Another painting practice. This was done a while back, and I actually really like still this type of painting where it's just like monochrome but with the ink plaque hair. Oh, stay. And I end up doing a couple more pieces like this throughout this sketchbook. More paint tests. This was Julie Magat, I think her second name is, but don't hold me to that. But her paints are quite lovely. I ended up painting donuts because, again, in the boredom of being in the house, me and my friends decided to design some donuts. So I ended up painting them as part of that. This one didn't go very well, but I really actually like these. It's not something I would normally paint. And I think they came out really cute. And yes, I did sit down and decide what these donuts are, how you would make them. And they are technically, to my limited donut making knowledge, things you could make. But I'm not skilled enough a baker to do that. We also have here a little ghost paint, ghost. I'm just going to say this 3,000 different ways, you know this. Little ghost painting, little experiment. I wanted to do it more plucky. I don't hate it. I kind of like the concept, so maybe I'll do something like that again in the future. Just a test painting. You'll see that this, I think this is when all my doodles of like quick eyes sort of start creeping in. And these are a theme for a lot of my sketchbooks. Speaking of, more eyes. I just had fun with this one. I was just playing about and having some fun with it. Doing eyeballs everywhere. I'm really just playing around with, you know, some masking fluid to stop things from going through. I enjoyed this one. What else have we got here? My mask woman. I actually still really kind of like this as a little sketch. Again, it might be something I go and take forward and do a more detailed painting on. A little more illustrative practice. Kind of cute. I like the empty air on the hands, but I don't think I'll go much further than that. And a painting that involves drawing light bulbs. So I practiced light bulbs. They're not great, but they were my first practice doing them. Knocked that again. This was sort of my first of these little cloud women that I did a little couple of sketches of. And again, it's that monochrome one colour paint and in the dark. I kind of like these. They're a bit more graphical, but they're cute. And again, I did a couple of these. I actually think I did this one first and then that one, if I remember correctly. These were actually the cloud paints that I got from, I can't remember what they're called, but the little cloud paints. I actually was doing the cloud woman before I got these paints, but they just were so fitting that I had to do one with them. So this is this one that I did. Again, just playing with more loose features. I never really finished this. But just playing around here. Again, some thumbnails for a painting to play about with. And I actually got some new paint brushes at this point, so I did some testing with them. These are, I've got one here actually. These Betty Hawkins paintings, ones that, yes, I mainly got because satiny purple. I love them. But they are good paintings. They're good synthetic, snappy process. So if you're after something like that rather than a softer, more natural hair plus, these are a good bet. So these were Nectar Watercolors. I picked up some of them and we'll experiment with them. Sadly, and I don't want to say that their paints are all like this, but I think I got a bit of a dud with the ultramarine blue, because as you can see it lifts, which is the same because all the other ones are really nice and don't lift, but when the blue one lifts it sort of got all over. And I tried doing this with them, but I was using that ultramarine blue and it was lifting, and I sort of lost my patience with it and then slapped on a bunch of ink and left it at that. I might actually take a punt and buy another ultramarine blue from them, so I've got a complete set that doesn't have problems, because I use blue a lot. Okay, more testing and swatching with paints here. I think we've got a lot of this in this sketchbook. This is a Gauss painting. Not much else to say about that. I just decided to mess about with loose florals in here and just make a mess, which was incredibly fun. I do like this sort of spread of this 2 pages here. So these were paints that I got from Penholder as part of my Patreon subscription to him, and I just ended up testing them out by doing some ink drawings of some people I got some reference of, and then just fully slapping on the colour. I actually like how this came out so much I did it a couple of other times throughout this. But yeah, this was fun. I look forward to watching the sitcom with these in. More Gauss experiments. I'm not very good at Gauss. We've discussed this many times. I'm trying to get better. This came out awful. I kind of like how this came out. It looks like a very drunk young Marge Simpson. In a good way. This was some sketches and practice from a skill set course I was doing, just on painting skin cones, and actually I found this really beneficial, and it's fed a lot into how I paint skin tones now. So yeah, really enjoyed that and was really useful. I should do more skill set courses. This one was just a fun little painting that I did just to play about with colours and stuff like that. I quite like this pose and this reference. I think I could need to rework the back a little bit, but I think the face came out quite well. Again, I really like drawing people in sort of profile. Some more sketches. Underneath this, I think this just, you probably won't be able to see it on camera, but I just did some paint swatches over this, and then I wanted to do some sketches, so I just put it over black. This was another skill test course I was doing about, you know, painting loose portfolios straight in water. I enjoyed it, but I didn't find it something that I would go back to and do myself. But it was a lot of fun. Lots of quick cat doodles. All these ridiculous poses are pretty much poses that you see my cats doing, that I'm falling off tables. Another Gauss experiment. I hate it. That's all I can pretty much say. But this is where I did get my taste for doing Gauss paintings on plaque, I think. I don't think I did this before this sketchbook. I could be wrong, but it feels like this was white. As you can see, this one was another where drawing people and then painting them in the watercolors. So way to testing these were honeybee pigment paints that I got. Again, another handmade maker. Really like these paints, particularly her version of indigo. I think it's really nice. Practicing drawing eyes. And someone asked me how I draw eyes. So I had to actually think about it because I just draw them. But this was sort of a little breakdown of how I do that, so I could send them a picture of it. Yeah, not much else to say about that. And I got some warm and small paints. So that's just swatching these out and testing them here. I might get more warm and smalls. I do quite like them. They remind me a lot of my White Nights, and I'm very fond of my White Night paints. This is a lovely colour, like a nice granulating purpley blue with a little bit of a green undertone. More paint swatching. I was buying a lot of paint at this period of time. And this is some experiments because I got a character I wanted to paint who's got blue skin. I had to figure out how to go about doing that. So a couple of experiments doing this here. So this was just an experiment with blue. I don't like how this came out. I actually much prefer the little smaller sketches here. One, it looks more like the character, it's less soft, and I think the skin tone looks better. Though I did never go on and finish that painting, so maybe I need to bite the bullet and do that. Some other quick practice sketches. These were just with some of my cheap student grade paints. You see those eyes sneaking in again, but again these are just portrait practice, painting skin tones, practicing with dark skin tones, which I need to do a lot more of. Some really rough sketches that I didn't really like, so I just slapped some paint on them. This was another skill course that I was doing on like landscape views and random paints. I've got a couple of loose ones I did of them that came out quite nice, and I quite like how this came out. So I do recommend that course if you want to do it. More swatches of paint. Watercolor World paints. These are some of their moon paints, which I absolutely love and used a lot more. I actually need to really look into getting a replacement for this colour because I don't have much left in the pan. Issy Designs, love her paints, and Honeymoons also really like their paints. They're another one that I get dot cards off every month. Well, every 2 months with them. And here we had some concept sketches. Now, for those who've seen my knitting painting, I want to do another one which is cross stitch. I've actually got the digital sketch ready to go. I just need to actually transfer it onto water painting and paint it. But if I never had unfinished work, what would I do with my time? So that's another one I should do. Paint tests. Just mixing them, see how they come up. A quick little one. My friend mentioned doing like a test at a cat persona, and this was sort of a test painting for practicing that. I ended up using the same pose from way back. And just putting a weird mouth on it. Needs some work, but the finished piece came out cute. I'm sure you're seeing a lot of this going around online where people will put in random paint splats and then doing random faces on it. I suck at this, but I thought I would try it. More paintings of creepy mouths. I like the mouth. I think that came out cool. I don't like the eyes, but it was fun to do. And lastly, some quick little sketches. So yeah, that's that. If I forgot anything in the pouch, I do. Little test card for when I was mixing, a sketch. Oh, a little print and paint card that I got sent, which was cute, and this was one of the things pieces I did after doing that skill set course, which was, I think, came out quite cute. I'm just testing some of my metallics, getting them all painted nicely, so I've got a reference card for them. I don't use metallics that often. I use them for like a pop of colour, but it's nice to know what they come out looking like. Okay. So let's get into more recent time now, and the reason I first started this video. Sketchbook 5. These are a lot easier to sew because they're a bit smaller, even though I was just saying before I would like them a bit bigger. But they are also easy to carry about, so win some, lose some. Let's get jumping in. So this one, as you can see, was done between the 23rd of the 5th and the 19th of the 8th, 2021. I'm about halfway through my next sketchbook after this. Now, First thing I did was paint more eyes, and I really like how these came out actually. I like the colours that I used here with them. I think they came out quite nicely. So first page, I wanted to repaint one of my old sketches from a sketchbook, which is sort of this king with the arrow. So this was my first sort of very quick sketch of that. He looked a bit older than I wanted him to look, so I sort of refined the sketch here. I think that sketch came out a lot better, and this is sort of the final sketch that I ended up transferring, tweaking a little bit digitally, and then putting onto canvas to make the final painting, which I will pop up here if I have a photo of it somewhere. After that, more paint swatching, a couple of experiments with water soluble graphite, which is something I would probably use a bit more. I really enjoy it. This page seems to be stuck together. There we go. Some thumbnails for sketches I want to do. This is a little experiment, and it just reminds me of me when I'm very tired and I just want to sleep. This is a further working into this thumbnail, and again this is something I really should take away and do a full painting of. This is actually done in gouache. It's one of the few paintings in gouache I actually like. This was the bean paint ones. I've got a couple of their gouache, very limited colour palette, but work very well together. Testing more paints, a little play about sketch with them. Again, this is might be one that'll be a fun concept to actually do into a full painting, but you need to get round to that. This was a little test that I did with the idea of doing like an ink wash over everything, so the actual darker parts of this is like a light ink wax, and then just slapping some watercolour on to make the colours. I don't think it's a technique that I'll use again, if I'm fair. Oh, these were me doing some inkings because I wanted to practice some poses. I bought some, I can't remember what they're called, but they're basically PDFs with tons of poses that people have trove, and I was just practicing trying them. And of course I had to put funky like underwear and stuff on them and just have some fun with them. But I really like how these pages came out, and I think they'll be quite nice, just, you know, scanned in and probably cleaned up a little bit and pointed out. I know my friend wants to point of it, so I should get round to that. I did a second page to that because I had so much fun with it, and again I really like these with the exception of this one because the face went all weird. I don't like how the face turned out, all that hand, which is the same because that's like my only sort of plus size woman in here, and she's the one who came out worse. Probably shows that, you know, I should practice calling plus size people more. Little painting experiment. I really like this one. It's based off a picture I called with basically a woman in a very similar pose with a very cool headdress, but I sort of just went more demonic with it. But it really reminds me, if anyone's ever played the game Pillars of Eternity, they have things there called death godlikes. Really reminds me of them. So I think they got into my head when I did that one. But I really like how that came out. I was doing, I did a paint this in your style for Felix. Is it Felix? I'm really sorry if I'm getting your name wrong, mate. Who is an artist I really love. Just really cool sort of work. But I was just playing around with, you know, their concept there. And then this is another one for a painting that I want to do, which, yes, it's a pomegranate painting, but I don't know what I'm going to do with that. Another sketch of, you know, just some idea of what or something I want to paint. This was another dot card that I got from Dan, and just testing out those paints here, and then a very quick little sketchy painting I did with them. More paints that I bought. I wanted a palette of just dark colours, so I bought that and got a couple of nicely coloured freebies, but this was a painting I did based on them. Meh about the actual painting itself, but I do like the colours. I did some bats because I felt like drawing some bats. I have but one claw, but be aware. I got some, this was painted with purely pastel watercolour paints, which isn't something I do every day. I've tried to find with my pastel paints, I like them more for backgrounds and stuff like that, rather than actually painting skin tones. But I thought I would just go for it, and I had fun with it. This was an experiment I'm never going to do again, but was quite fun. As you can see, this was sort of painting skin tones, so I normally paint skin colours, but just using only metallic paints on a black background. A lot of fun. Doesn't look like a great outcome, but I had fun doing it. These are those pastel paints that I bought, which are really nice. And I got some, just a small like mixing palette of, oh, what are they called? They're right there. Just to test them and have some fun with them and see how they came out. Some colour wheels, and you'll see a few more of these crop up because a friend of mine, I don't know if I've shown you these already, pointed me out one of these, which is just a little template for doing colour wheels. I think they came out very nice. I've now got two for doing that. As you can see, I've been doing a few of them. I actually have a dedicated sketchbook with them in. Enough quick sketches. More swatches. I like the concept of this, but I don't like the outcome. The space helmet is far too small for the body. It's just disproportioned. I originally started doing this in watercolor. I hated how it was going out, and then binned that off, and then came back to it maybe a week or so later and just went over it in markers, which was fun. It was like doing a colouring book like you were when you were a kid. Again, this is something I might redo in the future, but after completely redoing the proportions. More paints I was swatching, some quick doodles I did with them. Trying to paint some more clothes, because if you may have noticed, I don't actually paint a whole lot of clothes. So just doing some practice sketches of that. I don't think they came out too great, but hey, that's what sketchbooks are for. More thumbnails. This one came into a full painting, which I will pop up. Now with this one as well, this was based off a little bit of writing a friend of mine did, and it just sort of got this image stuck in my head. I don't often stick stuff in my sketchbooks, but I had this and I thought, do you know what, I'm just going to stick that in because I kind of like how it came out. Oh, these were quite fun. It was just trying to draw the same character at different points in sort of their life. So they're sort of the same person. They dyed the hair a little bit here. I don't think I did so well in showing sort of like any sort of progressing in like age and stuff. It's just like them with different haircuts. But I still had fun with it. I think I did better second time round because I can actually see that's when they're quite young and that's when they're older. Still not the best. But I had, again, a lot of fun with this and an urge to dye my hair purple. Same character sketch for the giggles. I've just noticed here I'm getting more and more into doing plus and stuff on characters later on, basically to clown level, but I really kind of enjoy that. This was another dot card of Dan. I actually love these selection of colours. I ended up buying full pans of them, particularly this one, which is called Stone Ends, which is just a lovely grey that, depending on how much you put on has, like, you get blue showing up in it. It's really nice. But like plants and faces, because yeah, these are very different, but actually kind of fall back to back when I used to be an acrylic abstract painter. My old paintings used to be a lot better than this, but I just had some fun throwing on some acrylic. This little bit of paper's just there because acrylic will stick to each other. That's why I never used to do sketchbooks back when I used to use acrylic. Again, another little experiment. This sounds daft, but I just wanted to do it. It is literally a bubble plower that I put some watercolour in to make colours, and then blew a lot of them here. Because I'm a mature adult. More swatches. These are dirty blues, and again, got some really nice colours here that I absolutely love, especially that's a cream gold, and there's a name to that one, but I can't read these from the distance I'm on. But I really like that. And some more here. These aren't dirty blue. They are... I can't remember what she sells one, but her name's Cindy. She's just a little cloud pans. This one's called Lisa's Tresser. I absolutely adore this. It's one of my favourite paints. Really granulating colour. Again, some quick sketches with ink. That's really it. More swatches of paints, and then another playing around with random poses. And what we got at the back here, an eyeball, because I started with eyes, I wanted to end with eyes, and this was another little experiment I did that I just stuck in here for the hell of it. Now what have we got here? Some ink, circle, not ink, circle, some colour wheel tests from when I got my Cambronle paints. A couple of little test paintings, not the best, but they are what they are. And these were actually from a Squaller box where we got ink, alcohol ink, and while I can't say that these are the best pieces of work ever, they were so much fun, like so much fun to do. I honestly might just pick up some more of them just to have a bit of a giggle with them. Piece of scrap paper, and a little like very dark, light and dark one I was playing with. So yeah, that is pretty much that. I feel like I've plastered through them. My commentary may have not been so good, but you can only do what you can do. But yeah, that takes you up to date on all my sketchbooks of watercolour types, I feel the need to say. So I do hope you enjoyed that, or at least found it interesting. I'm kind of out of things to say now, so I'm going to leave this with, I hope you guys all have a lovely day, and that you're all doing well, and I will see you next time.